10 seconds remaining.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to the NoShang Invitational. Been a little bit, but hey, that's because we had to go to Shanghai, and then, well, now everyone's free of that. So we're back here with this tournament, and we're going to watch as Tornado Rox go up against Cookies. I'm Mikelorus, going to be joined by mrpdota for this best of 3. How are you doing today, dude?
Doing well. Trying not to free myself just yet of Shanghai as a unbiased secret fanboy. But either way,
It's over. You won, okay?
Yeah,
it's
bragging
over.
rights for the next 3 months, right? It's been a long time coming, but either way, this match I feel is a lot more closely. These teams are a lot more closely matched than the public gives them credit for. Rox.Kiss have looked really solid lately and probably have had a better level of competition than Cookies has, but I think the mostly Swedish squad has something to say about that.
This is going to be an upper bracket match. Both these two teams did win their previous ones, and they're going to be facing up against, well, no one just yet, but hey, no elimination on the board for them. So, of course, I guess slightly lower stress. I'm not really sure about that. I've never been in upper bracket, competitive playoff, whatever, but I'm assuming. But either way, we're going to have a Lone Druid first pick. Taking a quick look at the bans, looks like mostly par for the course. A lot of defensive power, actually, being banned out in the first phase. Like, all these heroes have some way of just bailing out their buddies.
Yeah, a lot of defensive supports being removed from the pool. It feels like maybe a lack of homework from Rox.Kiss's side, being that Lone Druid is by far Cookie's strongest hero, I feel, and Kezu is definitely a really good Lone Druid player. So them giving that away is a little bit peculiar for me, but perhaps it's just that they feel that they have the wherewithal to deal with that pick, and they actually are intentionally giving it away. So I don't want to jump to conclusions in that respect. Already showing 2 cores in the first phase is a little bit unusual, but both of these cores deal pretty well with the Lone Druid, being able to banish the bear, Primal Roar being able to roar up the hero as well from pretty far range, even without any initiation tools for the Beastmaster. So I don't mind the opening from Rox.Kiss, but it does feel a little bit scary for them to give away Kezu's Lone Druid, although Enchantress pickup is an interesting one for Cookies. Generally, this is going to mean that this is a support Enchantress, but of course they always could run that LD towards the mid or safe lane.
Yeah, a little bit of flexibility coming out from this Enchantress pick. It is going to be rather interesting to see what Cookies want to do with this Enchantress and really what they want to do as a whole. Going up against an OD, Enchantress is situationally really good to have up against that OD. Of course, in prison is always going to be something that's a little bit difficult to work around if you are trying to go for the ganks, but if you can pressure the OD, man, you're going to be in pretty good shape, and you got the bear, you got Enchantresses, creeps. It may just be that Cookies are going to look to amass up a little bit of a zoo, and we'll try to push down the Tornado Rox side before they're really comfortable. It's something that Tornado Rox are going to have to be a little bit careful of. I mean, they have a Beastmaster of their own, they have an OD, they can do their own tower damage, and it's not too terrible, but certainly it is Cookies who are in a slightly better position in order to do so. Now, they should have to look to their lane strength, maybe get some babysitting heroes so that Enchantress can, in fact, sit in the mid lane as much as possible.
Yeah, they could use a little bit of wave clear as well, certainly, and maybe they go for something like a Clinks to counteract the Enchantress, but as aforementioned, because of the lane player combinations for Cookies, this generally is going to be an Enchantress support, so probably don't want to look to counter that up too hard here. But Ursa Ben is an obvious one for Cookies, and may indicate that the Enchantress is actually going to get a little bit more farm priority than I'd anticipate in this first phase. But Omni Knight Ben, just kind of pub combination here. OD Omni Knight, very strong, difficult certainly to fight up against. So pretty standard bans thus far throughout both phases for both teams. We'll see what Rox.Kiss is going to remove from the pool here. E skills towards the mid lane does have a little bit of a limited hero pool. He plays the T and the Invoker particularly well towards the mid lane, so wouldn't be too surprised to see those banned out, and wouldn't be surprised to see Cookies pick either of them up.
Do you think perhaps Cookies are looking for just Enchantress matching up with the Beastmaster in lane? Because I mean, Beastmaster does alright there, but not having access to your board because it's constantly being stolen, being melee up against range, and Enchantress, ideally with like a solo level's worth of experience, get to level 6 pretty darn quickly. Is there any upside there for Cookies to actually try to make that happen? I think like that would involve like a Lone Druid mid lane or something like that, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of upside to try to make that happen.
Yeah, sure. The 1v1 isn't bad for Enchantress. Beastmaster is pretty heavily reliant on his right click to have any solo kill potential, which has been buffed time and time again. So certainly Untouchable will be good there. As you mentioned, being able to steal the boar is a pretty useful tool as well, especially if you actually level up the charm, which is unusual. You can grab up every boar that ever spawns. So Enchantress, probably a good 1v1 there. The Wild Axes are pretty good, though, if you max them against Enchantress. She has a little bit of a low base HP pool because she relies on Untouchable to be her effective tankiness. But yeah, that could be certain possibility. And as we saw the Ursa ban, that definitely could mean that this Enchantress is going to gain a little bit more focus from that Radiant lineup. CM pickup early on is a little bit interesting for me. Certainly going to be nice in terms of disable. Like they're lacking it a little bit aside from the Primal Roar earlier on, but it feels like a very weak support into the Lone Druid. What are your thoughts on the CM?
I feel like they're just picking up Frostbite. Like, screw everything else that the Crystal Maiden has right now. They just want that Frostbite as a spell, and it's a pretty good spell, especially up against an Enchantress.
Right.
Pretty effective versus that bear as well. Just being able to lock down and just do away with some of those bigger, tankier creeps early on. And, Crystal Maiden being able to go into the jungle, there is a lot of upside there, but looking at the aura, looking at like the ability to cast Freezing Field without immediately dying. I mean, there's not many stuns. In fact, there's like no stuns on the Cookies side. So maybe that's going to be happening down the line. But it does feel like the Crystal Maiden, at least for her aura, for her nuking power, maybe could be in a little bit of a better shell. And it's of course not too late to make this Crystal Maiden pick just a lot better. It's going to depend mostly on what's going to go towards the Tornado Rocks safe lane. They can afford to get someone who can, who with the extra mana from the Crystal Maiden aura would be able to just lock down the lane just a little bit harder, just spam out whatever those spells may be.
Yeah, could be something like a Juggernaut, something like a Sven, some carry with a little bit of spam ability. Sven seeming a little bit more attractive here. The Warcry really nice against the Witch Doctor Death Ward for that in the entirety of the Rox.Kiss lineup. And it's just been a hero that's kind of been favored recently, but we're going to go a little bit further back into the meta and grab up that Gyrocopter. So looking to fight early. Bear is pretty darn good versus the Gyro. Can soak up a lot of his damage, but the call down radius as well, just even if one missile is able to catch that Lone Druid hero, can allow these other heroes like the Beastmaster and the OD to get in range who do a lot of damage early on, even without too much farm. So I do like the team fight lineup assembled from Rox.Kiss, and you mentioned spam ability. Rocket Barrage is a great tool to have alongside that Arcane Aura for the CM. And CM just kind of one of those greedier supports who can find herself in the jungle, finding a little bit of extra farm, while a self-sufficient range carry like Gyro in lane, who is not very diveable at all with that rocket barrage, can sustain himself. So Rox.Kiss feel pretty confident at this point, but it doesn't feel like a Gyro can stop a Lone Druid from farming. So we'll see what that third member is of that presumably defensive tri-lane. For Cookies, still looking for both Flens and E-skills heroes more than likely towards the safe end mid lane. But yeah, could be that core Enchantress sneaking up 1v1 against the Beastmaster, as you mentioned. And going aggro into a Gyro, probably not the greatest call, but they will go for the Nyx Assassin, so direct counter to that Outworld Devourer here.
It looks like it might be a mid Nyx Assassin as well. The lane matchup is a little bit sticky there, but I don't know. Cookies' lanes are going to be with a lot of flexibility, and Nyx Assassin usually does pretty well versus OD a little bit later on once the mana burn gets to a slightly lower cooldown once he gets all of his levels, but it is possible. And this is really where, as Crystal Maiden, you're kind of quaking in your boots because you have zero response to a Nyx Assassin, especially if it's a Nyx Assassin who is not a support and is going to be getting those levels. He can tear you apart in no time flat. And well, Cookies, the Nyx Assassin is very good versus the OD. That's for sure. But it does look like they're just going to try to play this, kind of as like a tempo game. Get the Nyx Assassin up to those levels, and then try to go for this extra push with Enchantress, Lone Druid, and the sustain from Witch Doctor. Nyx Assassin's kind of playing that Bat Rider role that we often see teams pick Bat up for. But this time it's Bat Rider that's good against OD.
Yeah, and in the early 3 or 4 levels, the Nyx will do fine. 1v1 mid lane, and Outworld Devourer is the greatest base damage, and also just the Nyx Assassin having his base HP regen being very high, one of the highest in the game. He'll be able to sustain himself before the Arcane Orb comes out, and he gets most of his mana sapped away with his intelligence being stolen by the OD. So I don't mind the mid lane Nyx Assassin. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's going to be a little bit of a niche pick, but just getting levels for him could be very nice against this lineup. We mentioned already the squishiness of the Crystal Maiden, but he's going to be up against a Beastmaster Hawk. So if they're diligent about their sentries, more often than not, they can scout him out. And he doesn't really have a roaming partner or any global potential alongside him in this one. So he is probably going to be more that 5-man oriented Nyx rather than the pick-off oriented one, unless he can find out a lowly Crystal Maiden picking up her level 6 in lane or something of the sort.
Hey, it's not too late to grab something like a Spirit Breaker and then just have a whole bunch of pressure with the Witch Doctor Spirit Breaker roaming around, get the strong individual lanes of Nyx Assassin, Enchantress, Lone Druid. It's probably not going to happen, but these are the options that Cookies do have for their last pick. Not going to be the Juggernaut, not going to be the Lion. Both of those hitting the bin, and then Tornado Rocks are going to go ahead and grab the Phoenix. Now, we've been seeing a different kind of Phoenix being played recently, getting a lot more of that Sunray, playing a little bit more like a healer, kind of, but you still get the job done with those Fire Spirits. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix here? Because it does seem like Cookies are in an okay position to deal with the Phoenix as it stands right now, just in their lanes, and it does look like it's going to be a pure support Phoenix.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the 4-position Jerix type Liquid Phoenix, and it's really just flavor of the month against the Lone Druid. The Sunray being percentage-based damage is excellent against the Bear, and that seems to be pretty much what they're grabbing it up for. The Slark pick is almost directly in response to the Phoenix, I feel. Being able to pack off those spirits should mean, and also having the Shadow Dance should mean more often than not that this egg is going to get brought down, and Tornado Rox.Kiss, they're not going to rely entirely on the Phoenix Egg in their team fight. Their team fight is very strong with the Primal Roar, the Call Down, the Sanity's Eclipse, and even the Freezing Field to some extent. So I don't feel like too much is on the back of this Phoenix, but early on, as you mentioned, that maximum Sunray build is going to be able to do some work against Kezu. But it seems like for now, Steph's style is going to pick up that Enchantress, and that'll mean it will be in the 4 role. So not the biggest fan of that, but definitely can look to apply some early pressure. And as you mentioned already, the lanes are pretty shored up for Cookies. So Enchantress rotating in, being a little greedy, finding a little extra farm in the jungle could certainly pan out for them here. And don't know that there's a clear advantage for either side in terms of the draft. It feels like it's a really good game for the Slark. We already mentioned the lack of Disable over. Aside from the Primal Roar, there's only that Frostbite over on the Rox.Kiss side. So I really do like the 5th pick from Cookies, but definitely both teams with some serious team fight and pick-off potential. So we'll see who gets the better out of the lanes, and both teams with a little bit of a greedy support in the CM and the Enchantress.
I want to say Tornado Rocks are just slightly better positioned here. If you look at the Cookies cores, Lone Druid and, well, I guess like Slark mostly. It's the type of hero that you really want to get that one big item on, and then you're not really going to be playing like a traditional core from there on out. You're usually going to be a little bit more aggressive looking for those kills. And by the time that comes up, usually it's like, Shadow Blade, Blink Dagger, that point in time. Tornado Rocks are going to be already leveled enough, unless something disastrous happens in lane. They'll be high enough level to actually have some sort of response to that, and they are, with the exception of Crystal Maiden perhaps versus the Slark, in a decent position to actually deal with that Slark should he actually try to go in. So I just feel like the period in time where Cookies need to make something happen with the Slark, otherwise he just tends to fall behind, is pretty much exactly where Rocks are starting to get going. So the timings, I feel, just don't quite line up for the Cookies draft as much as they would really like, and to that end, like, they really do need to have some sort of advantage coming out of this laning stage in order to make sure that the Slark, once he actually is ready to go and move around the map, is going to be, just slightly more ahead than the Tornado Rock side.
Yol is apparently calling BZZ at this point, who's disconnected, so that's good. At least we'll have him on the line, but yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent about the Slark, but he is going to have an Nyx Assassin alongside him once he's able to get up that aggressive item, and there's certainly some defensive potential. The OD is not the easiest to gank unless they pick up something like an Orchid, which none of these heroes really build into very well. They do lack a little bit of burst, which is, generally what OD is weak against earlier on in the game. So certainly the responses from Rox.Kiss are aplenty. They've got the Beastmaster to TP in, presumably to a Hawk at some point. The Gyrocopter is able to turn ganks for obvious reasons very well. So yeah, it's going to be a tough go for the early gank, but still feel like Cookie's not necessarily on a timer. and neither is Rox.Kiss. Both of these lineups do very well in the late game. And Nyx Assassin, despite in most matchups not going to be able to scale well, will scale pretty well here, at least against the Outworld Devourer, having that multiplier based on the his intelligence from the mana burn. So we'll see how it ends up going. But yeah, lanes are going to be, as you alluded to, extremely important, it seems, in this one. And maybe just having that Enchantress advantage gives Cookies a little bit of an edge. But we'll see how the safe lane goes for Rox.Kiss. If they're able to shut down Kezu's Lone Druid, that generally bodes well for teams facing against Cookies. If Kezu's Lone Druid does well, that's generally going to lean towards the opposite. So hopefully we can get back underway in this one. NoShang, it's been a while, but finally back here in winners bracket semis, I want to say. Yeah, winners bracket semifinals here. So winner moves on to the winners bracket quarters. Winner bracket semis for the winner.
Semis, quarters, like all that terminology. Screw that, man. Nobody actually knows what that means.
2 matches to the winners finals. We'll say that much. So
yeah, round 2.
Yeah.
Round of whatever. No, you can't really say that. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, either way, another thing that you really want to look for if you're rooting for Tornado Rox is how much farm Pseudo is going to get. Of course, Beastmaster is typically going to be that hero. Like, if he has a great time in lane, he can just dominate the entire game. But most of the time, Beastmaster is going to go for Necro Books. I feel like that's 9 times out of 10 nowadays. And if you are able to get up the Necro Book up against the Cookies side, yeah, Enchantress is going to pose some sort of a threat to that. But just that True Sight, being able to answer the Nyx Assassin, being able to answer the Slark is going to mean that Tornado Rox have yet another asset to deal with that perhaps invisible heavy gank train that Cookies are going to look to assemble. But right now, it seems like everyone is actually finally in the game. They're going to be loading out into the lanes, and it's on the Tornado Rox side where we're going to have the Crystal Maiden. It's going to be handled by RMN. Seedoy is on the Beastmaster. BZZ is on the Outworld Devourer. This is Yul's Phoenix. Now towards top lane, it's going to be Tron on the Gyro.
Yeah, over on the Radiant side, we got Pablo picking up I want to say signature Witch Doctor. I feel like I always see him on this hero. Eskill is going to go towards that mid lane Nyx Assassin, as you mentioned, Steph style. Picking up the Enchantress, we've got Kezu on his signature Lone Druid. And over in the bot lane, being chased way the heck out of his lane is Flensmeister, or Flens, picking up his Slark.
30 seconds to battle.
This Nyx Assassin skin is so sweet. Looks like callback to Dota 1. Just putting that out there for everyone.
A new Barak is in
absolutely
the house.
Sick. Oh yeah, gotta get that deep voice in new Baraka. It seems like Tron might be testing this a little bit. He's got to be a little bit careful. And Impale is difficult to land, but there's not really much room to juke here. Tron really wants to test this. He has backup incoming. Boar leading the way along with the Crystal Maiden. Look at this ballsy CM just charging the high ground.
Yeah.
And it seems like they will force everyone from Cookies to back off. They get their bounty rune. Slark, though, grabs his on the bottom. And well, looks like that was a little bit bold, I think, from both sides to actually look for a full-on fight there. But and you know that if you can get Enchantress to level up something that's not Enchant, then that's a massive win. But for right now, it's just going to be fairly even, and the lanes are going to be pretty much as expected. I really got to see what Steph Style is able to grab in that jungle and where he's able to rotate.
Eskill got a really nice block mid lane. But yeah, I kind of understand Rox.Kiss's aggression a little more than Cookies. They've got some pretty scary level 1 despite even having an OD. And yeah, as you mentioned, we are going to see the Radiant back up. But the bear, is it the... No, you can't.
No, it's Pablo.
He can't attack. How the hell did he get that?
I was watching the bear do shenanigans. I'm like, oh, there's Beastmaster in the jungle right now. He's got the Iron Talon. He doesn't want to actually go into the lane. And then Pablo just sneaks behind the tier 1 and snipes the courier. So... yeah, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate for BZ. He did get his delivery. I assume it was the healing salve. And
yeah.
He doesn't need anything like super crucially from the courier, so it could definitely be worse here for Rox. But hey, starting things off with a courier snipe, Cookie should be pretty darn happy with that. And they should also be pretty happy that there's literally nobody in this bottom lane. They shouldn't be happy with the fact that Eskill is getting his face beaten in by BZZ, but hey, that's the price of the mid lane.
He'll go to his happy place, pick up that happy tree, and get a little bit of extra regen. But especially with the base regen from Nyx, he'll be all right here. And yeah, the new OD a lot less bottle dependent than the old OD was. May force him to change up his build a little bit. Usually we see like a 4-1-3. He may go 3-1-4.
PZZ is in the worst possible place for this. He does still have the range creep alive, so he's going to see the smoke break. There is an Impale still available. They're not going to need it first. They're going to land the Stomp, then the Impale afterwards. There's no mana for a mana burn, but with the right click, Steph Style is going to grab it. OD loses his courier, then loses his life. And Steph Style grabs, well, I mean, the Centaur Conqueror. Really, you don't need that much more than that. And
Yeah.
Nick Assassin is going to have really the best lane that Nick Assassin could possibly have versus an OD. Like, it actually just doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, and as we mentioned early on, maybe the Enchantress is the trump card in terms of the potency in the lanes and already showing her face mid lane.
Keizu in fire, in ice, and Savage Roar is balanced, so he probably is going to survive. RMN going pretty deep for that. This Crystal Maiden has grabbed boots first, so RMN looking to be a little bit more aggressive around the map, which is, I mean, the Crystal Maiden is slow. We all know that, but boots first, Crystal Maiden, I'm not really sure if that's going to offer them all that much, because Phoenix isn't really going to be ganking. Beastmaster's not going to be ganking until a little bit later. I feel like RMN, you know, I don't know, this opening build is not going to be doing a ton.
Yeah. Sadoy, though, probably making the wisest decision thus far in the lanes. It is going to mean an early... He's going to suicide right now. So he buys out and suicides, so maybe not the wisest decision in terms of that. But either way, he's already a little bit ahead of Keizu being designated immediately to that jungle. But it is going to mean that their tower is going to be pressured bot lane. And once again, with the Enchantress, they're going to have the wherewithal to do so here for the Radiant side. So already about 40% of this tower's HP eliminated, and no wild access because of the jungle build means that there really isn't any wave clear here for Sadoy. RMN will rotate in, try to bring down one of these creeps with the Frostbite. So yeah, as you mentioned in the draft, kind of one of the key points to picking up that CM here will help to at least stymie the push for the next little bit, but already half the HP of this tier 1 down 3.5 minutes in. It's going to bode well for Cookies. They got that kill in the mid lane. Keizu's doing very well as well. Having to rotate Sadoy in after that suicide means he's sitting at about exactly the same experience at this point. So CS advantage, of course, going to go the way of the Beastmaster in that jungle, but Flens has had complete free farm up to this point as a Slark. So melee carry up against Beastmaster having free farm is really desirable for Cookies.
I mean, Zidoy is still a pretty high level, and Steph Style is going to get jumped by RMN, maybe. Thinks about going through Frostbite, and does deploy it on the Centaur. Poor guy is not going to go anywhere, and BZ is going to grab the last hit. But yeah, the cost of this Beastmaster getting experience is half the tower's HP. Not too bad ultimately for Tino Rox. I feel like the Beastmaster leveling is definitely a little bit more important than that tier 1 tower in the bottom lane. If Beastmaster's able to grab that level 6, then he really doesn't have to touch the bottom lane for quite a long time, and can really find his bread elsewhere. But it looks like it's back to the jungle for him, and still there's no one on this bottom lane. This is, of course, Cookies getting 3 lanes and jungles worth of experience and gold, whereas Tornado Rock's only getting 2. So you'd expect Cookies to be pulling ahead, but CS is looking a hell of a lot better for the Rock side. Yeah,
and that worth looking pretty good for the Radiant, though, at this point. Flens picking up a lot more, and the Nyx probably getting more out of the mid lane than Rox.Kiss really anticipated, especially with that early Enchantress roam. Top lane Keizu maybe in a bit of trouble. There's a rotation behind the tier 1 tower from RMN. He is going to run into the gank duo of Steph Style and Pablo. They should know their smoke has popped at this point, and they are going to take a look over. They got the net from the troll. RMN in a lot of trouble. He's going to get cast up. Steph Style not doing all that much damage at this point, but yeah, he's essentially going to corner himself and try and TP away. And will they miss at the low ground? He does make it out. Last right click in the air.
I don't know how many misses there were, but gotta assume there were a couple there. So Crystal Maiden making quite a nice escape, but I don't really know if that should have happened in the first place. She had a ward that spotted the smoke breaking, so she knew exactly where she was going, and that there were heroes there. They're going to look for BZZ. The Impale will not connect, so they can't get him. But yeah, Crystal Maiden trying to go for that even after realizing that was a bad spot to be in. Spirit Bear up towards top. Who's going to get roasted by the Sunray? Looks like the Savage War will once again keep the bear alive and well, but lots of rotations right now, lots of close calls, but ultimately still it's just Cookies who are, with that first blood and with a free farming Slark. Got the hand of Midas. This Slark is going to be kind of difficult for Rox to deal with, since it doesn't seem like they have any intentions of actually challenging him or ganking him or anything like that. They really don't have the right heroes to do so. Yeah, and maybe he's having a little bit of recognition towards what you mentioned. Oh, the flat cannon. Spirit Bear getting low in 8 seconds until a resummon, so Keizu should be just fine here. But we're just going to touch upon maybe him recognizing that 12 to 14 minute window isn't necessarily as alluring as it generally is for a Slark in this one, just being all the turn potential on Rox.Kiss side. So he opts for that Midas, and yeah, I'm a fan of this. I'm definitely a fan of this pickup here, especially being a 6 minute or so, sub 6 minute Midas. At this point, Slark should do well. Top lane, Keizu, yeah, he's in trouble. They're going to dive forward. They get the Sunray off onto him as well. The Savage Roar is going to be there, but it's going to push them towards him. Fire Spirit's not going to land.
Kezu should be just fine walking away from this top lane. And yeah, they even rotate in E-skill just to ensure that he survives. If he had died there, it would have been 80 seconds with his Spear Bear on the sideline. So pretty essential that he survives and has been creating some space. He's forced these supports mostly to be present in that top lane. Speaking of which, though, RMN, he's going to drop down a little bit of a high ground ward in that mid lane. And yeah, no rotation in towards E-skill. It's definitely a tough target to bring down, both with the Vendetta and a Spike Carapace available to him. BZZ just sitting pretty much on no mana this entire mid lane. And bot lane, they are able to bring down that tier 1 in the meantime.
He only has 1 level in the aura, so gotta roll and gotta be really lucky in order to get that mana, and otherwise you do get one and then it's all burned away. Feels pretty bad if you're the OD, but hey, you still are able to hit pretty darn hard even without that. Tornado Rocks, they do lose their first tower, and Seedoy's gonna get jumps, axes on a step style, plus the roar. Enchantress still not dead yet, but Arman's going to arrive with the Nova, is gonna grab the kill. Now charging after the Slark. How often do you see this? RMN, yeah, is probably not going to get that much going by himself, but with Tron right behind him, maybe they'll catch up to Pablo. The Crystal Maiden is going to land the Nova. Pablo's not going to get any help from the Rune, but it looks like he will walk away. No problem whatsoever. Enchantress just getting a little bit too far, disrespecting the Beastmaster. Now level 7 is going to really start playing this game. Beastmaster so far has just been playing in the jungle.
Yeah, that early jungle certainly paying off there with him having his ultimate available to bring her down. Enchantress feeling a little bit tanky early on, as you tend to with Untouchable, but the Roar gonna make him pay. They actually missed the Impale on BZZ's main hero, only hit the illusion there. RMN was behind him as well, so not sure if they really have the kill potential there. Him sitting on 1,000 HP with that Belt of Giant Strength and the Null Tally at this point. Cask is gonna fly. Only gonna bounce once. There's a Maledict there as well, but yeah, BZZ will just walk up to the high ground. It'll be just fine for now. Kezu has found some space all the meanwhile, though, with the Gyrocopter rotation to that bot lane. Yul trying to find his level 6 in lane, but certainly Cookies are going to be happier with this scenario. This little bit of passive play for the next little bit. There's a Hawk scouting out Kezu, but no rotations early enough as RMN rotates in.
He imprisoned himself. I don't think that dodged the cask, but it's set up either way. Impale's still gonna miss, though, from E-skill. Slight juke from BZZ, and he's free and clear, it looks like. Seedoy's going to arrive with the threat of the Roar. He will protect his OD. Man, I mean, Cookies are getting the time of their life with the Slark. Like, he's just having a ball, but Nick Assassin, even after getting a little bit of assistance, is just having a lot of trouble landing these Impales. And, like, pretty much every single Impale he missed could have been an OD kill, I feel. And that's absolutely huge. Now OD's still alive. He's still farming. Now Tornado Rocks is going to smoke up and look for someone else, but seems like Kezu's going to see this one coming. Completely dodge that smoke gank. Yeah, might lose his tower, but it's just a 1-for-1 tower trade ultimately across the board, and it's so much missed potential here for Cookies. If they were able to grab the OD there just once, then this would have been just a game where that was completely unlocked. The cast is still bouncing, though. He's maledicted. OD is going to get hit with the shockwave. No, it's slightly off the mark. OD with the narrowest of jukes is going to once again keep himself completely safe.
Yeah, and he opted for the max Impale as well over on E-skill's Nick Assassin, so pretty big deal that he's going to whiff that Impale mid lane. And Seedoy has a Roar available. He is going to expend it onto Pablo, and the Boar actually picking up that last hit there, fortunately for BZZ. But a nice pick off. Primal Roar, not the biggest cooldown, only that 80 seconds at level 1, so certainly worth expending it there, just to ensure that there is no backup coming in for the Witch Doctor there. With the Voodoo Restoration and the Cask, with there only being the heroes and the Boar there, he may have been able to turn that alongside some teammates. So the Roar going to deter anyone else from joining the fray. And Flens picks up his level 11, meanwhile, in this bottom lane, and that is by far the highest level in the game. The Tri-Core of the Dire side is all sitting on level 8, so the Midas doing work and that free farm in the bot lane. He's going to get to a scary point here fairly soon.
And then we'll see how much Cookies can actually play with this Slark. The intention for this Slark is pretty much just to buy a little bit of extra space for Kezu. He still doesn't quite yet have his Midas. I assume he's going to be going for that next. So, the Slark hopefully is going to grab his aggressive item, whatever that may be. Blink, Shadowblade, maybe even going to go for a little bit of a slower build. He probably can get away with that, I feel, if he wants to. And then see what space he can buy for the bear. E-skill, he's on the hunt. He has his Vendetta up, and he's going to find the Beastmaster. He's got backup right around the corner. It's Steph style, Vendetta, Impale. This time, everything's going to land with the mana burn there. They'll have a stomp afterwards. Seedoy is not going to have a chance to cast anything. And E-skill is going to finally land that Impale and finally grab himself that kill. these are the type of kills that Cookies really need to get in order to get this Lone Druid a little bit of extra space.
Yeah, perhaps early on, E-Skill just, mid lane. They do not catch the Nova onto Pablo. The first call down missile will connect. The Sunray is there as well. He's got the Voodoo Restoration, keeping him alive, though, and not having the slow from that second call down missile may save him for now. Tron trying to rotate in will get there in time. Cask is going to bounce out. Only one right click, though, from the OD. TPs are inbound aplenty. They do catch the Impale. Once again, the Death Ward is there. BZZ brought down to the Impetus of the Enchantress. The Charm goes out onto Tron as well. Doesn't feel like they will be able to chase him down, but they will be able to throw an Impetus, and Gyrocopter, not the tankiest core early on. A couple of those, bringing him to very low in terms of his HP. And all the meanwhile, once again, Flens not having to join these engagements, continuing to farm up in the bottom lane. Cookie's certainly pleased with that mid lane. And yeah, we see maybe early on E-Skill having to kick off some of the rust, but he's been cocking back these stuns a couple of times to ensure that they land. And two crucial ones in the last couple of kills for his team is going to set them in a great position right now, 3-2. And they haven't even contributed their one position to really any of these ganks, whereas Tron has rotated to 2 so far, both unfruitfully. Mid lane, they are going to get the Imprison over, and the Sentry is there. They're going to dive forward. They get the Frostbite off as well. Supernova's there. E-Skill should be dropping. One more right click is going to be there from the OD, and the Enchantress will not be able to bring down the Supernova. They dive forward on top of the Roar. Steph Style will be the second to be brought down. It's a double kill for BZZ, and Flens, once again, opting not to join. Does have that Blink Dagger available now. Bot lane, RMN going to show his face. Jump forward, pounce. He is going to catch RMN, and he will get the Dark Pact off. RMN holding on to his Frostbite for the Dark Pact to proc, but unfortunately, just was enough nuke damage for this level 12 now Slark. Just about level 12 now Slark. They do lose their mid lane tier 1, though, in the meantime, so not the biggest deal that they lose that CM top lane, but once again, Flens just getting a little bit too fat for Rox.Kiss liking at this point.
You could kind of see the problem that I was describing earlier. Cookies, their Slark is now pretty much full and ready to go, but we could also see that Tornado Rocks are really just reaching that point as well. They have the call down, they have the roar, and they have the Supernova from the Phoenix, and hey, they'll sometimes have the Freezing Field as well. Crystal Maiden, first item, gonna be that Shadow Amulet, so, you know, sure, whatever floats your boat, CM. Get that ultimate channeling. This Slark, he's gonna want to try to go and provide some space for Kezu. They're looking at Seedoy right now. Entangle first hit. Always gonna happen like that, it seems. Seedoy is gonna drop. Probably would have gotten the kill even without that first hit Entangle, but hey, it's a kill. BZZ is actually gonna rotate in as well. He's got the Invis rune. He's gonna see 2 heroes, 3 heroes here. They probably can fight this if they had, you know, the Gyrocopter in position, but it seems like this tower probably is gonna be dropped for free here. Giving that over to Cookies, but yeah, Slark so far got a kill on the Crystal Maiden. Really, we need to see him, I think, start to kick into gear a little bit more, because right now Cookies still aren't really fighting with their full strength. Not until Lone Druid picks up that first item, probably Radiance. E-Skill gonna find Yol, impale him. He's gonna get put into a cage. First call and missile will miss. Second one will hit, and E-Skill's gonna go right into the Sunray. He's gonna roast. Tower will be held over in the mid lane. In the meantime, Flens, he's gonna try to go for a little bit of tower pressure of his own. Seedoy is going to teleport in and hold it. And it seems like it will be actually just that kill. No tower destruction just yet. Seedoy, though, has to be very careful. If he gets blinked upon, he may have the roar, but between the Shadow Dance and the Dark Pact, it's going to be really hard for a Beastmaster to make that stick.
Yeah, really nice little set of engagements for the Dire side. They'll get the kill on the mid laner, and they should get 2 tower denies as well. Looks like Steph Style not willing to give this up just yet in the mid lane. Flan's going to jump forward with the Dark Pact, trying to bring the tower down, but a little worried about that Sunray damage, and the Primal Roar does come out. Wild Axes is there as well. Need a couple right clicks, though, with the stick charges. Steph Style's going to be fine. They are going to pop the Supernova, but Flens is there with the Dark Pact, and only a level 1 Supernova will easily be brought down. So they do get the Phoenix kill, but they lose 2 tower last hits, essentially, as both of those are denied, and that is a lot of bounty going to be denied away from Cookie's side. They do gain some map control off of it, though, and they certainly have the heroes to punish a lack of map awareness for Rox.Kiss, having that Slark being as fat as he is at this point. So we're seeing the virtues of Rox.Kiss's team fight. They've been able to assemble around these towers and at least get the denies off, but regardless, Cookies are going to gain some semblance of map control here. They have a triple Midas now, with the Nyx picking up his late 16-minute minus, so definitely Rox.Kiss still fight ready despite having a little bit of a net worth deficit here, as 4,500 of that net worth is invested roughly into Midas's for the Radiant side. But they feel like they can scale well, and certainly That is the case. We mentioned earlier, Nick's not the best scaling core, but up against an OD will be a little bit more effective than general in the late game. So we'll see how it pans out.
Tornado Rocks definitely have a little bit of a stronger team fight, but Cookies are going to be probably more often the ones to start that, just having that Slark with a blink and the Nyx Assassin. Flens, though, is going to get jumped. He's going to blink right into them. He's going to leap away. Pact now starting up, and it looks like he should just be fine. The rest of the Rocks side going to look to go into the lane where there's a bug, there's a Witch Doctor, and they have a Hawk overhead, so Intel gaining the vision of the Witch Doctor, and it seems like Pablo is going to teleport out. Everyone will leave. Tower will not, so Tornado Rocks, I mean, they really wanted that Slark, obviously, but they'll settle for a tower, and they're probably powerful enough, actually, with level 1 Necrobook to go for this tier 2 and just try to race Cookies. Is this the period in time where Tornado Rocks actually want to race for towers, though?
Yeah, no, I feel like they need to defend up their towers, and it feels like they're at least going to send one back towards that top lane to ward Kezu off, and I feel like that's certainly the right call. Their team fight is feels like superior, as you mentioned a moment ago, in a 5v5 scenario, and they do not have the they do have the Supernova back off of cooldown, so it feels like they certainly can fight, but looks like at least for now, trying to shove in that bot lane, and Yol's gonna pay for it with E-Skill flanking him from the backside. They're gonna get the TP out as well onto Kezu. RMN's gonna get purged up by the Satyr Banisher. And they're going to get a Primal Roar, though, off onto E-Skill, so he will be the trade. They aren't all as slippery as the Slark and in that top lane. They will go 1-for-1, certainly a favorable trade for Rox.Kiss, but they don't lose Kezu, which is a big deal. He's only 500 away from his Relic at this point, and they do at least save their bot lane tier 2 for now for the Radiant side, so they're not terribly displeased with that engagement, but certainly not losing E-Skill is not the most ideal scenario.
I feel like as long as Cookies are just keeping Rocks fighting way that deep, like that's tier 3 territory in the Rock side, and that's, you know, in and of itself a little bit of a win for Cookies, because again, Flens is working with a lot of scaling. The Lone Druid's getting his big items up, and Nyx Assassin, usually, you know, he's going to fall off. We were talking about that before, but with this Hand of Midas, you can actually afford to die a couple of times, still get your items up, still get your levels, and still be pretty much Nyx Assassin throughout the entirety of the game. So that's not really the biggest loss in the world here for the Cookies side, whereas what they're gaining is just so much more influential. Rocks, I mean, they're doing okay with their farm as well. We haven't really talked about this Gyrocopter, but he has S and Y? No, just the Yasha right now with the Helm of the Dominator. He's doing pretty decently for himself as far as the net worth is concerned. OD also doing okay right now, BKB after the drums. But it's just really hard to compare that to how much free space the Slark is getting, because he's looking at an Eye of Scotty next, it looks like. How the hell are Tornado Rocks supposed to kill off a Slark with a Scotty?
Yeah, Scotty is a great item in general for Slark, but feels like even better here. Top lane, they are going to get the Rock, but he gets the Primal, or the Dark Pact off in time. And yeah, if there's one hero that you want to be popping smokes, blinking into them bot lane, and being initiated on it, is this Slark. He is definitely a slippery target, and yeah, he'll be able to get it out. Definitely was some solo kill potential there with RMN rotating in with the Frostbite as well. Necro level 3. I mean, there's probably a dead Slark in that top lane, but he'll make it away. Primal Roar will be down, and this is a nice play from Rox.Kiss. They're going to go in, tank the Roshan with the illusions, and going to jump forward into the pit, but it looks like they spotted the Phoenix rotating in, and they will send a creep over, so well aware of this. They do bring down Roshan decently fast with BZZ having a level 4 Arcane Orb, but looks like the reactions will be plentiful now from the Radiant side, and will they be willing to go in here? They've got the Ravage from the Nyx Assassin at this point. 3 heroes standing on top of one another. And they'll throw in the bear. Savage Roar. Not going to be used just yet. They're going to wait for the Roche to get low enough. E-Skill going to jump forward with the Mana Burn there. Savage Roar gets off, but the bear dies in the meantime. They do get the Roshan as well. E-Skill in trouble. They put down the Sentry Ward. Sunray is there. E-Skill dropping very low. He will bring him down. Yol will find the last hit. Bear resummon is going to force Kezu to jump out as well. So they only lose. E-Skill once again does have that Midas, but a big win for Rox.Kiss around the pit there. They are going to find the Roshan. They find a bear kill. And they will get that second life over onto BZZ's OD, who's got that pair of drums at this point. So right clicking pretty frequently on the OD, doing quite a bit of damage. And yeah, maybe they can 5-man and try and bring down some structures at this point. With all the Midases up onto Cookie's side, the net worth advantage isn't quite as large as it seems on paper. But Scotty is going to be out there soon, so Flens will be fight ready.
That was a very questionable play there from the Cookies squad. Like, you know that Tornado Rocks have all of their ultimates there. They have the vast majority of their heroes there. And Cookies, I mean, Cask is really good in that area, I suppose. Not much else. Savage Roar and Impale are also pretty decent, but that's about it. So it seems like that should have been something where you either just go in or you don't go in. Instead of like half going in there, they just sacrifice their bear trying to get some cute Savage Roar play. That didn't really work out. And then the Crystal Maiden, of course, because she's the slowest hero in the freaking world, it's also going to get picked off. And they probably could have just let Tornado Rocks get that and take the top T2 in exchange. You know, that very classic tower for Roshan trade, and would have been Cookies dodging the fights, still getting their objective fairly evenly. Yeah, you don't really want to give the enemies a free Roshan, but you're walking into a Roshan pit up against everything that Tornado Rocks have. So much AoE in their team fight, and they know that you're coming as well. Everyone knows that everyone's coming, so there's no surprises. I feel like that could have just been Cookies finding a much better trade elsewhere around the map, because really their strength as Cookies right now comes from the fact that in multiple 1v1s, all of their heroes will probably win it. But in a full 5-on-5, there's really no chance for them. And now with the Aegis and a little bit of extra gold from the Bear and that Nick Assassin kill, looks like T2 mid is going to be pretty much grabbed for free. No split push on the side lanes. Not going to force Tornado Rocks back.
Yeah, and they fight a little early there. The Lone Druid was just shy of his Radiance, and he hasn't now. Had they had that, I would have understood them going to fight. But generally, you don't see a Lone Druid showing up before he picks up this item. Or at least like a Vlad's Maelstrom. So, yeah, interesting to see them take that engagement. Kedzu is going to TP back here for the high ground. They are going to lose about half the HP on this tier 3 before any reaction. But now with the Radiance out, oh, they do get the Sunray off as well as the Frostbite. This could be a dead bear, and it is. The Spirit Bear is going to drop. They do have the resummon. And it looks like Rox.Kiss will be content with their spoils at this point. They do have that second life on the OD, but everyone a little bit low. Both the Gyro and the OD. Sitting very low, and they don't really have any sustain other than the Sunray over on Rox.Kiss's side. So in the meantime, Flens will find that tier 2 in the off lane. Not the greatest tower, but finally they get a last hit on one of these towers. That's going to be brought down, and Flens a pretty slippery target. Does have that full Scotty up as well, so maybe they look to smoke and fight despite this Aegis being up. They have this Radiant Ward scouting briefly RMN here. And if they can get to him, it'll be a pretty free and clear pick. But for now, seems like they're just content to shove the lanes out and farm, delay things out while this Aegis is still in the pockets of Rox.Kiss.
Well, Rocks are going to clear out a pretty massive stack, get a couple of items up. They have 2 fresh BKBs still. The one on the OD has been there for quite a long time, but I mean, that is going to be so difficult for Cookies to deal with. At a certain point, Cookies are going to have to kind of switch gears into full-on high ground defense / split push in order to defend their high ground. If Tornado Rocks, if they have a fresher Aegis, this one's going to time out in about a minute. If they had a fresher Aegis, then they could probably just force issues right under the shadow of Cookie's base, grab the tier 2s pretty much without a hassle, and maybe even look for those tier 3s. But as it stands right now, OD's Aegis pretty much run its course and seem like he's going to get value off of that. But Rocks still just have to make sure to not just get picked off by E-Skill, not get picked off by Flens. And that's not super difficult to do. As long as the Hawks are in the air and the wards are there, then they should be fine. They're going to find the Spirit Bear, and he's going to get roared by Seedoy. Here's the Solar Beam, and that's a dead bear again. There's another resummon on the Lone Druid, so there's no huge timing here for the Rocks side, but man, that bear death, the gold definitely adds up.
Certainly, and had they had a lane that they were in shoved out, it looks like they would probably take structures here. But yeah, I mean, they have a 2-minute window where the resummon is on cooldown if they're able to bring down the bear again, and they'll also have the Aegis for that entirety. But with the lane being shoved as far as it is in this top lane, doesn't feel like they'll get any major structural damage done. And yeah, the Aegis will be reclaimed now. It's going to be near the minimum Roshan spawn at this point, so does feel like that favors Rox.Kiss a little bit. But there's going to be a smoke from the Radiant side, and Cookies certainly fight ready now. If they get the jump, and that means this freshly picked up Blink Dagger from Sedoy is not going to be nearly as effective as they'd like it to be. They've got The Nyx Assassin flanking from the back lines as well. Kezu's got the Radiance to cancel this blink if he can get his bear in, and they will find Yol in the back lines. They're going to get the Impale off. He'll die before the Supernova comes out. The call down will be dropped. Flens will pop his ult a little bit early. The two BKBs from BZZ and Tron are going to come out. Tron still tanking it through all of this. The pounce will not land. He's trying to make it out, and Sudoi will get the Primal Roar off. The Dark Pact will kill him off, but the Sanity's Eclipse is going to bring down the Slark. Kezu gets the Savage Roar off, will keep himself safe for now. BZZ looking to fight, but he takes a big mana burn as well as the spike or the impale there, and BZZ will drop. It'll be a 4-for-1 when all is said and done, and getting the jump there proves to be king for Cookies. They're very diligent about their Aegis timer as well, going right after they know that expires, and they take a great engagement in the top lane. Rox.Kiss going to pay pretty heavily for their positioning there. No vision nearby, whereas in the bottom hemisphere of the map just a moment ago they had a lot of vision. They chose to go pushing in that top hemisphere where they had none, and Cookies will make them pay.
Focus fire from Cookies definitely winning the day there. Of course, getting the initiation on the Phoenix. I mean, he was able to cast absolutely nothing, so you don't have to deal with that heal / damage on your bear or anything like that. From the Sunray, Spirits, Supernova, all of that non-factored into that fight, and starting things off 5v4, usually you're going to win that, and Cookies did in fact do so with really just good focus fire. I mean, the OD was BKB'd, as was the Gyrocopter, but as it stands right now, Gyrocopter isn't really devastating enough to kill off the likes of a Slark on the front lines, that Eye of Scotty, the Lone Druid as well. Cookies were able to really disassemble the team fight component of the Rock side and really make it so that it was a whole bunch of like 3v1s, and Rox weren't able to have enough damage nor have enough CC to really distract them away from it. Crystal Maiden did get a pretty good ultimate off, but as far as crowd control for Tornado Rox, they got the Roar, and I mean that's about it. Once the Roar is expended, everyone else from Cookies is pretty much free and clear to do whatever the hell they want. So it's a element of surprise factoring in there as well, but bottom line is that Cookies do take a pretty massive win, and Slark is really showing off that even with a very early and probably suboptimal Shadow Dance, he's still just doing a truckload of damage, and that's really not going to stop anytime soon, because he's still on the item train. Ogre Club probably BKB for his next item. This guy's getting like so big so quickly.
Against an Outworld Devourer, certainly BKB is I mean, not the most common item on Slark, but certainly warranted in this case. The bulk of Rox.Kiss's damage right now is going to be through that OD and through the magical damage toolkit of Tron before he becomes a physical damage presence. So I really do like that pickup from Flens. And if he seemed unkillable before the BKB, he certainly is going to be essentially immortal after this one. So yeah, he does a lot of damage, and chasing forward and dying there with the early Shadow Dance is subpar, but as you mentioned, he was just able to spread out the entire lineup of Rox.Kiss and turn it into a bunch of micro engagements there, and they're able to bring down all those heroes one by one. Flens feeling pretty slippery towards this mid lane, having the blink available. Will be able to trade this tier 2 mid more than likely for his tier 2 bottom. They are going to respond heavily though immediately as they take down the bottom tier 2, so they will save this for now, but the split push with the Lone Druid and the Slark will Rox.Kiss will more than likely succumb to this at some point. And there's only one outer tier tower left on the Radiant side, but not looking too healthy for the outer tier towers on the Dire side as well. So no real map advantage in terms of map control at this point, but vision generally goes towards the side of the Beastmaster, but the warding situation it seems a little bit slim for the Dire side. RMN will look to mitigate that now with a couple sentries and an Obs ward by the pit. And once again, with what is a great lineup to take Roche with the Inner Beast as well as the OD, they'll be able to bring this down pretty quickly. And actually for most of Cookies, they're playing a little bit scared across the map right now, so they won't find a trade in the meantime.
Alright, so this is going to be the real challenge for Cookies. They were able to win the last team fight because they had the positioning edge onto Rox. They were able to spearhead right into the middle of their draft and got a good angle on them that time. In the high ground defense, when you're not able to get a flank like that, then things get a lot more dangerous, because then it's a lot more difficult to avoid the full 5-on-5 and turn that into multiple 1v1s, as Cookies are really going to want to do. And for Tornado Rox, I mean, they have the Aegis, they have still very fresh BKBs, I think 9 seconds apiece. Seems like it. So yeah, it pretty much doesn't get much better than this. If they can get a pick off, man, that will get better. And Pablo is going to get roared. No, yes, kind of roared. He's in the base, but he's fine. That kind of sucks for Rox. If they were able to get that, at least the tier 2
So-
down without a hitch. They're probably still going to get the tier 2 though in the end.
It's a pretty big win, though, for Cookies. It feels at 70 seconds where they can't necessarily go high ground just yet. Pablo survives. And they have the fresh BKB up onto Flens as well. So Pablo being there just to kind of notify him that the enemy was nearby allows him to get out. He doesn't have to expend that coveted 10-second charge of his BKB. And he'll be fight ready soon as well. They're going to expect to push top lane, so therefore Flens will go mid, and now he will be imprisoned up. There's no roar, though, and he should know that from Sidoi, so he actually does hold on to his BKB charge wisely. So, and Flens, with some very diligent play, will be able to get himself out. He even picks up an Arcane Rune for his troubles, so wise from him not to expend the BKB charge there, and he'll be able to make it out scot-free. Not the easiest target to bring down, and certainly a cheeky play from Rox.Kiss. You expect them to go top lane there after, and they rotate over to the mid to deal with the Slark split push. Maybe Flynn's not expecting him to be there, but at least being wise to the state of the game with that Primal Roar on cooldown.
I can't be the only one who finds it a little bit strange that Slark, who's imprisoned and in Sunray, is able to blink out of that. I feel like that shouldn't be happening, but either way, it is the Slark to escape and buy his team just quite a bit of space. E-Skill almost going to get smoke ganked. Looks like neither side saw it, so not going to happen just yet. But Tornado Rox, they still do have this Aegis. They're looking for that pickoff just to try to go up high ground. And it seems like they have a target in their sights. It is Flens. He is being targeted with the missile, but backup for him is right around the corner. Tornado Rox looking like this time they'll be on a pretty massive disadvantage position-wise if they go up this high ground. But they're going to find Stepstyle all alone. Roar and the Solar Beam. Stepstyle's going to roast. There's their pickoff, and conveniently it's right outside of the Cookies base. This is going to be the high ground push for Tornado Rox. Without their Enchantress, I don't think they could really afford to defend this. They don't really have any AoE to get out of this position either. Tron's going to get jumped by the cast, lose quite a bit of his mana, but it doesn't seem like it's going to matter a ton, especially if they kill off the Spirit Bear. Orbs are going to drop like hammers, and the Spirit Bear is going to live. Was that a miss last from the OD? I think it was.
Oh, the imprisoned save is going to keep Tron alive for now, but this is pretty much going to be his Aegis expended if they choose to go anymore. And well, we'll see if they go high ground. He's got no mana, so he can't really contribute anything before dropping here. Doesn't feel like the most ideal situation for Rox.Kiss. The Enchantress is up in 10 seconds as well, but they are sticking around for now. A little bit precarious position for them, and yeah, they'll decide against it. Tron will back off for now. The Enchantress respawning, so with that a ton of damage taken early on from Rox.Kiss, despite bringing the Spirit Bear low, they are going to have to retreat for the time being. And it's definitely a successful high ground defense and one man down for Cookie's side. And feels like the further this game goes, the better it is for this Radiant side with all these Midases ticking away. And something I just realized as well is those Necro Books, I mean, they don't stand a chance for this Beastmaster. They've got 3 Midases and a Charm from the Enchantress's side, so they're able to really stymie that push in the sense of the summons coming out from Sidoi.
Well, I mean, if they get enchanted, they don't give gold to your enemies. The bear is going to get ganked right now. Frostbite, Phoenix going to dive right in. Doesn't have the beam, but they have the slows and the Spirit Bear. Fire and Ice, once again, Jakiro, eat your heart out. Spirit Bear, rather, going to get dropped in just a couple of orb shots from BZZ. They finally get their bear, and now this actually might be an opening. The Aegis, how long does it have? Not that long. Doesn't look like it's going to be an opening, but hey, kill off the bear one more time, and you're in a pretty good spot if you're a Rox, but not really sure if that's going to happen. What's relevant here is that the OD has his sheep stick.
Smoke.
No blink, however. And it does seem like Smoke is going to run to Tron. Needs to get the BKB off. Still has the Aegis. He might actually get value out of it yet. Solar Beam's going to come in. Tron's going to pop everything, it seems. And he's going to try to race for Flens. Flens taking a lot of damage. Impale into 2, though, is mean that Tron doesn't have that much backup. His supports just get eaten up. And the Death Ward is going to grind him down as well. Aegis still is up on this Gyrocopter. It doesn't seem like they're going to want to pop it. His restore from the Aegis not going to do anything versus that Radiance. But it's BZZ who's doing the most damage. Shiredi's going to drop the Eclipse. Gets Keizu down as well. Grabs a triple kill. And Cedo is looking at Pablo. He's going to grab him as well. Gyrocopter did not get value off of that Aegis, but he just distracted away from the monster that is OD, who cleaned house.
I mean, I would call that value, at least for the team. Certainly
Sure.
No individual value there, but yeah, Gyrocopter, they focus way too much on him, and even Flens near the end was like, crap, we went 20 seconds too early. We gotta wait for this Aegis to expire. He's able to get up to the high ground. They lose the regeneration because of the Radiance, but as you mentioned, BZZ just standing in there, not garnering any attention, doing tons of work, and having his BKB, they really could not turn on him at any point. They only end up losing a tier 3 for this when all is said and done, but they do expend the buyback. At least, actually, 2 buybacks. Enchantress and the Nyx Assassin buying out for that one. So pretty big win for Rox.Kiss. And they'll probably look for that next Aegis as their next primary objective, and then look to finally bust high ground and be able to break base.
That's a lot of buybacks being spent by the Cookies side. It's just costly for one thing. This Death-style Aghanim's not going to come up for quite a long time. This is the second time I believe E-Skill has bought back. So, I mean, yeah, he has the Hand of Midas, so he can afford it, but ultimately getting a Midas, what, like minute 12 or something like that, only got him a 4-staff now at minute 37.
Yeah.
Because he had to spend so much to actually just buy back and stay on the map, and of course having 6 deaths doesn't exactly help your case either. Rox now have the Blink Dagger on the OD. They're going to walk right under vision range. It's a little bit unfortunate for the OD, but Blink Hex, and that's pretty much a free pickoff if the combo can land properly without Cookies like immediately interrupting that with, a stun or something like that, Impale or Spike Carapace. But for Rox, they have this initiation style now with the team fight to back it up, and they're going to probably claim this tier 2 for free. I feel like the game plan here for Rox should just be grab the tier 2 tower if it's free, and it doesn't seem like it will be since Cookies are going to look to defend this. Then just chill and wait for Roche, because it doesn't seem like Cookies are going to be able to do anything really about that. And the last time they tried, nothing happened that was good for Cookies.
Yeah, and both the lanes are pushed in as well for the Dire side, so they can't really get any split push done despite having an Assault Cuirass completed over on Kezu's Bear. So, yeah, it looks like they're going to look to press their advantage here, though. High ground. No Aegis this time, and Tron, not the tankiest core with that MKB Manta build-up. He does have the Talisman of Evasion, which is certainly always going to be nice against the Slark, though, and yeah, it looks like they will decide against it. As you mentioned, going to wait for that next Roshan, but they'll take that tier 2 for free and at least look to give the illusion that they'll pull high ground to force some of the cores back on Cookie's side. So things looking very good at this point. The Gyrocopter and the OD keeping up in net worth with the Lone Druid and the Slark, and they don't have a Midas as part of their net worth as well. So a little bit more fight ready in terms of what currently sits in their inventory. Kezu, with the Radiance, is just going to continue to push out this bottom lane, but the 5-man of Rox.Kiss is ensuring that mid and top lane are continually pushed in here, and it'll be a minute and a half until Roche is back up. And the Dire side do have a creep in the pit awaiting his return, so they will be notified immediately when that Roshan is back up.
Seems like it's just a minute for them to wait, so Rox can clear stacks or maybe get this Butterfly up on Tron. Is there any Ancient stack? There was for pretty much the entire game. Just a double right now, but man, there have been a lot of Ancients cleared by the Rox side over the course of this game. Grab the Butterfly, maybe we'll just hold the Evasion, grab a Satanic instead, something like that. But it does seem like this Roshan push is going to be probably the death blow for Cookies unless they can get something happening right beforehand. They do have Aetherlens, Aghanim Scepter on the Witch Doctor, and Tornado Rocks, as we said before, are pretty stun light. So this can be the all-in Hail Mary play from Cookies. Kezu's Bear is going to be resummoned. They know exactly where it is now. I don't think that was the play. Our men is up on the high ground. Perfect positioning for a Crystal Maiden. He's going to let it go with the ultimate. Already the Assassin is down. BZ's going to get stunned up by Flens, and the Spirit Bearer needs some help immediately, but is not going to be able to get it. Tron, though, has a double damage rune. He's just bearing down on the Slark. He's going to jump over towards Yell. Going to Icarus dive away from that. Now it's versus Tron versus Flens, and Flens is doing a pretty damn good job right now in the Shadow Dance. He's just laying into Tron right now. The Bear's resummoned, but Tron still not dying just yet. Now pops the BKB. Seedoy's wailing away the entire time. Savage War going to help out a little bit versus Seedoy, but man, Tron's still going to work. Kezu going to fall, and the Slark is going to narrowly escape versus the Crystal Maiden. Ultimately 2 for 3, and Flens realizes that it's just a Crystal Maiden. Is like, wait, I'm not scared of this. He'll get frostbitten down. Seedoy's gonna pop a Hawk just to get that vision, cancel that regen. Slark should fear the 2 of them, and he will go down. That's a 2 for 4. Roshan immediately respawns, and Tron, it's like the opposite happened last time. It was the OD to do all the work while the Gyrocopter tanked. This time the OD tanked while the Gyrocopter did all the work. Cookies just don't have quite enough damage to convincingly bring down these targets. Yeah,
we talked about their lack of burst potential very early on against both the OD and the Gyro, and having that Radiance up against 2 8-second BKBs, it just didn't do enough work for them. It looked so good for them early on, being able to bring down that OD so early, but the Death Ward was expended to bring down that OD and then immediately canceled thereafter from Pablo because it wasn't hitting anyone else. And then the backline was cleaned up by Tron and Sedoy, and they were just able to leave Slark for last. He was able to bring down 2 targets essentially by his lonesome. He had some help from Kezu, but able to bring down the Phoenix and the OD, and yeah, the rest of the rest of Rox just taking out the entirety of Cookie's lineup. And yeah, they even get the Slark at the end with the help from the Beastmaster Hawk Vision. As you mentioned, they'll pick up a gem now as well. And so in tandem with the Beastmaster Hawks, they should be able to get full semblance of map control here. They have the Aegis on the Gyrocopter. They got the cheese now in the hands of BZZ. He'll replace his drums with that cheese. And certainly sitting on level 20 at this point. Tron sitting on level 23. These are a couple of very scary cores. And yeah, that last-ditch smoke effort, jump forward. They're going to get the Hex onto Pablo, and he is not going to have buyback on this Witch Doctor. So they do expend the BKB, however, as they did have high ground vision here. So probably were well aware that no one was behind Pablo, but they'll expend that BKB regardless. They still have the cheese on the OD, so feeling more than safe with the Aegis and cheese. There's no tier 3 on the high ground as well, so they don't need to siege necessarily against this damage, and probably can feel pretty safe. Flen's going to try and nuke up the wave. Sunray's going to be there immediately, and that's going to cover Tron as well as BZZ to be taking out this melee Rax, and there is no immediate response. It's a melee Rax completely forfeit. The bear in trouble as well. Dive forward from Yol, just going to check, scope the scene, but they get a free lane of Rax mid, and they lose nothing for it. They'll even have the BKB up for this next lane in 15 seconds on the OD. They got the cheese available as well. BKB and Aegis still in the hands of Tron with his freshly picked up Butterfly. This is looking very dire for Cookies at this point. They do have the Death Ward now back up for Pablo, and this is going to be essentially the last stand for them. Do they have a resummon on the bear? They do not for 55 seconds. Jump forward, BKB, there's a Sanity's Eclipse. He's going to bring down 2 immediately. Primal Roar is there as well. Flens does get a bash off onto BZZ, but they've got no follow-up damage. And now they're going to bring down Kezu. Jump forward, Supernova is going to zone away the rest of them. The Pounce will catch RMN, but it's just a Crystal Maiden at this point. There is going to be an Impale from Isco from the west side, but now they bring down the Stark. It's an ultra kill for BZZ. Flens will buy back. Jump forward. No, the Blink is going to be canceled there. Maybe from the Flak Cannon. The Hex will be purged off, but Flen's still in a world of hurt right now. He'll be brought down. The Imprison only going to delay the inevitable for him. Mid-pounce, Rampage for BZZ, double kill for Tron. GG more than likely going to be called here, and Steph Style will throw in the white flag. Game 1 going to go to Rox.Kiss in pretty convincing fashion. Cookies got all they wanted out of the lanes here, but just not able to withstand the 5-man power of this Rox.Kiss lineup.
Once you make that Hail Mary smoke towards that Roshan pit and that fails, I mean, that wasn't only just a loss for Cookies, like in a straight up team fight sense, but it was also pretty much them losing the game. They needed to make that engagement happen. Once again, get the element of surprise and catch Tornado Rox at a pretty bad angle, and it just didn't quite work well enough. And then once Tornado Rox, especially with the Aegis and Cheese, come to your high ground and you actually have to fight on a full 5-on-5 basis, then that's where Cookies just, as a draft, they crumble. They have to keep the enemies separated, and this is really where you would kill to have a Batrider instead of an Assassin to keep it on a small target, single target by single target basis. But unfortunately, Cookies draft not really conducive to defending high ground up against what Tornado Rox have. So 43-50, it's going to be Tornado Rox grabbing game 1. A little bit of a rocky start. Cookies definitely showing that they do have what it takes to at least challenge Rox. So game 2 should be pretty interesting, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Guys, I'm Mikelorus. I've been joined by mrpdota. Hope you guys have been enjoying this game so far. Best of 3 it is. So we'll be right back for game 2 in just a little bit to see who's going to take a Cookies or Tornado Rox.